Okay, so in this stream, we are going to make the Canadian Empire in Country Ball World. Now, I'm on a private server, so I don't have to worry about, like, the other people, like, doing copyrighted music and stuff. Anyway, so it starts where the US like, the US has, like, a little war, and they end up losing a lot of money, so they have to sell some territories, so they sell it to us, and we give them a lot of money after that. And then after that, the elections come in, and since we gained that land, we change our flag, and we start changing our name to the Canadian Empire. Now, the US is still the strongest nation in the world. It's just that they had like a massive war in the Middle East, like over by there. So now they needed money and stuff. So they reached out to us saying that they would sell that stuff for our money. And we were like, okay. So then this is the start of the Canadian Empire. Oh, so if you want this country ball, the code is 172296000420. Well, 0 at the end, but let me just look. It's right here. So just pause it at this and then copy this if you want it. If anyone plays this on Roblox. I love it's like this is actually the flag of the Canadian military, but I'm just using it as an empire flag because it kind of looks like that. It's cool too. I think I like this more than the like actual flag itself. Anyway, so we gained some territories because they sold some to us because of the war that they had in the Middle East. Then Greenland breaks free from Denmark and declares war on them, and then Russia invites them to their faction, meaning that we're gonna have to invade them now too. So we start with these islands for a sneak attack because they know that we're gonna be going down here because it's like mainly populated. But we're using special elite mountain troops. If I can just get these islands. To capture these islands and eliminate the Greenland. Come on, let me get this island, please. There we go. You know, I might have to go like this to get it. Come on. Yes, boy! We got it. Now this one. Wait. They really need to update the hitboxes of these things or like whatever. Because I'm literally clicking on it. I'm spamming my freaking mouse button and it won't paint. I have to like go around on this, finding like its hitbox or something. Come on. I know you're there. I know you're around here. Oh. You here? No. Let me just... Might have to go. There we go. No, this one. These islands are annoying. Wait, stop painting that one, please. Come on. It's okay. There we go. Now we can finally push in. So we push into here, taking the inland. Now they only have the coast. So they have like some troops that were up here making a base camp for like an evacuation line just in case they get pushed. And then they ended up not replying, so they sent another pair of troops, and that's when they realized that they made a surprise attack. So then they come down by here. Well, the Canadians come by down there. Come on. This one might be easier. Yep, it was. Where are you? There we go. So we ended up taking that. We pushed that too. We capture some of these islands. We can't push any further. We encircle them there, so now they can't like escape it out here. So now they can't just go like this back to there. Or they can't go into here. Now their main island is gone there. It's only one last one. And now all we have to do is worry about down by here. So now that Greenland is completely ours, well, completely in Canadian control, they have like a slight amount more population, but not much. But also they have like more, like they control this now, instead of controlling half of it. So they basically just have a lot more sea land, and they're a lot closer to Europe now. So just in case, say that Russia invades like the Baltics here, they're able to deploy troops quicker because like there's probably gonna be like a few divisions up in here that they're gonna be like first responders. Yeah, so after a couple of years, Russia is defeated by Ukraine. So let me just run over there real quick. So Ukraine defeats Russia. And they take that back. And they have to pay the Ukrainians a lot of money. And they can't put military on their border at all. They can't even go, and even Belarus has that rule because in the early parts of the war, Russia moved through here. So even Belarus is impacted by Russia's grave mistake. Now, elections in Iceland have made the Democratic Party win, which causes, well, triggers a civil war. Wait, I'm just gonna, because the capital is somewhere around here. So this and this is taken, and eventually they control Iceland, which now the Canadians invade, and as well as the Danish. So now they're basically occupied. Now the Americans sell this again because the closest land is Canadian, and a lot of people, when they're going to get some stuff that isn't on the island, usually just go up by here, drive down by there, instead of going down by here, so it's got sold to Canada. Right, no, wrong buttons. Now, around this time, tensions in Europe rise again, and Russia and China trigger World War III, not two. Jesus. So the Canadians quickly send what they have like around here and here, like into this area, while like the troops in the Maritimes come and support them, but they're just here to like defend and like hold on until American troops arrive and like reinforcements and stuff. So they're just there to hold for now. But in the Pacific, they're tasked with taking this area right here. Oh, wait. It's a tiny freaking color difference. So they take that, but it ends up getting taken back, so the Americans then land. And then the Americans start pushing the Russians back. And the Russians are unable to stop them, triggering Chinese troops to come. But troops in Taiwan get prepared and they do a naval invasion, allowing Taiwan to get its old land back, the real China to get its land back. So they take a bit there before the Chinese front is stabilized. North Korea does a surprise attack and attacks there, but is unable to push there. But until like a couple of Japanese like guards, like they don't really have a military anymore, but comes like support around here, so they can't push and circle there until the Americans can come support and push that back. And then they push to there. More Chinese troops are gonna have to get peeled off from there and there to get to here, meaning that they were pushed to there, and the front is, it's not good. So, and then India decides to join on the US side, on NATO, and they push there, liberating, like giving, and they're basically going to give this land to Taiwan because it deserves to be Taiwan land. So when I say China, I'm just going to say like Taiwan, and then I'm going to call this China, Communist China, or fake China. You know what? Fake China. Let's set around for fake China. No, it's the peace deal that matters. I'm just doing the war real quick so it's over with. So after a while, China starts to fall, unable to stabilize the front, because now that India's in, more troops can actually go in behind here, like reinforcements like British, French, like a lot more. And then they end up linking with these. They ended up getting pushed over here again. Now, fake China decides that they're gonna retreat like behind this river. So they do that. It kind of fails around here, but it's fine because they're able to hold, and that there's another river around here, which they're gonna set base at. Then them and Russia manages to push them back, and then China pushes fake China with the Indian and American NATO troops still pushing, as well as Canadian, because there is a couple of Canadians. Now they do a little naval invasion there again, which flanks them, capitulating them, meaning that now South Korea is basically called Korea now, because there's just one Korea. China gets pushed a lot. Until fake China dies. And then this China wins. The real China. So now that China's back into a democracy, Russia has no allies to back them up except for like Iran and Pakistan, which they don't come in because they're like, you know, we're just not gonna go in. We don't want to risk anything happening to us. We're gonna be like, we can strike another day. We can like unite and just beat everyone to freaking dust. So now the peace deal comes in. It's not gonna change around here, but here, Russia, Putin gets kicked out of, isn't the government anymore. So now Russia isn't under a dictatorship. They don't really lose anything. It's just now that they're in NATO and stuff. So Russia's in NATO, Taiwan and South Korea are already in NATO, but yeah, so this is basically the peace deal for this. So now let's head back to North America. and it's gonna take a while. And here we go. So now that we're back to here, I can continue. Alright, so the Canadians decided that they wanted to invade the Bahamas because while World War III was going on, a lot of Chinese and North Korean communists fled to here, and when the elections came up here, they went communist and they ended up living on their country's faction and stuff, so now they have to be invaded. Because it's dangerously close to the US. And they can easily construct nuclear bombs because, like, because it wasn't just only citizens and like military personnel, it was also like the people who build nuclear bombs. Right, so now that they're fully invaded, Canada gets everything. Because Canada was the one who done all the heavy lifting. I think this is Jamaica, but Jamaica also turns communist, meaning that they have to be invaded. Now Cuba is already communist for like a long time now, so both the US and Canada invade them, and they split the land. Right, so if you look at the map right now, Canada has a lot, but here comes the tricky part. Here comes when things drastically change. So, an unknown reason. Wait, what is that? That glowing thing over there? Oh, it's just my cursor being. Okay, I thought it was like an item or something weird. So, United Nations ends up collapsing for some reason, unknown why. It just ends up getting dismantled. No one knows why. So it remains a mystery. But then after that, peace in like regions around here starts breaking down, and many like border conflicts and stuff start happening. So the Americans have to send and Canadians have to send troops over there to stabilize everything. Then when they come back home, the U.S. ends up having like little civil war. It's only like a small one, like a small uprising, like around here. But after the U.S. takes it, they still come out. So they're like, you know what, Canada can deal with this stuff. So, do you know what the Canadians do? Remember how the Canadians are super brutal when it comes to war and stuff? Well, they thought about acting like that, but they're like, you know what? No, let's just load them onto ships and put them on a random island and starve them. That is the perfect decision. Yeah, I'm just making this stuff up, so just don't worry. And it's all in the game too, so don't worry. Now, after that as well, Alaska declares independence, and the US doesn't give it to them. So, they have a civil war. Well, they just declare independence, and then it's not really a civil war, they just declare independence. They forcefully declare it. They say that it doesn't matter what they think. We're our own country now. There's nothing you can do about it. So now the Americans are gonna have to invade them. So that's what they do. They start pushing up these islands. They do a little bit of naval invading. But then for some reason they're unable to push. And they're unknown why. So after a couple of investigation, it comes back to the government that they're unable to push because they've built like a lot of defenses in the mountains, and they're like, you know what, we're not gonna be able to push on our own. So they start thinking, who else is good in the cold mountains and stuff? So they start thinking, and then they come up saying Canada, because it's closest to us. It's right on their border, and they're experienced with the cold, because Canadians are immune to the cold. So then they start invading there, taking this, and when a peace deal comes, this is the peace deal. So they basically just share the territory now. Because they're like, you know what, you get that, you deserve this, Canada, you helped us, so you're like, you can have this. Now Mexico turns communist. It's not because of those people that fled from China and North Korea, but it just happened. And it frightens the US because they're like, last time we had a communist on like our front yard, they threatened us with nukes. So we're like, we're going to war. So they go to war, they get rid of this. Canada then helps them, because Canada's nice. Why wouldn't Canada help their big brother? Then they take here, and then they surrender, and then they get land taken from them. So like Canada gets this, the US only takes like 2 areas, and maybe like some down here just in case, like, just so like Canada isn't right on their border, just in case they're like, let's get that land back for free. But then these guys just get invaded. Canada just starts invading them because it was, the reason is because they noticed that their elections are coming up, and they put spies in those countries, and 75% of those votes, and this was like the day before the election was over, like on who won. The majority of all those nations were communists. So like, let's get rid of them before they become a threat. As well as this one. Now Venezuela declares war on them. Is this Venezuela? I think this is, no, I think that is Venezuela, because isn't this Colombia? Or whatever. But then so Venezuela declares war on Colombia. Colombia ends up pushing them back because Venezuela is like, okay, look, if we sneak attack, we can get rid of this easily. But then they got lured into a trap. And they're done. They died. Now they declare war on them and them. Well, they declare war on this because it just because. And then that's the peace deal, and then that's Grand Colombia. And they're not content yet because they're greedy. So they take that as well as this, and it becomes a threat because they're expanding at an alarming rate. And they're like, you know what? They're not gonna be able to take Peru because Peru is like over their military because Peru's been building up their military and they have like stronger military than them. So then they just watch it happen, and they break up the Peru's military, pushing them back, encircling them, destroying their army. So then something has to happen. So I almost called Canada. Isn't, I think that country's like a Spanish thing, maybe? Like a Spanish nation? Like a historical Spanish nation? Well, whatever. So Canada's told to deal with them. Now most of their military is still down there, coming back up, and only a few soldiers are up here, and they get easily destroyed and pushed back. Then a few citizens in Venezuela actually helps them by saying that we want to help you if you let us be independent. And they're like, okay. So now they have like a little bit of territory here now. It's not as much as they had, but now they're helping them. And then at this time, most of the troops that are down here arrives to here. But Canada has a cheeky plan. On invading this island and using it as like a base to dock their ships and stuff. And then they do a little cheeky naval invasion. Encircling their units, taking the coast, taking that so they can't escape into Brazil. And they die. And then they go along the mountains, because they're good in the mountains. And then Grand Colombia gets demolished. And Canada takes everything, because they're like, we're taking everything, we want to build our empire. And we want to become stronger than the United States. Then the US is like, you know what, we can sell this to you. We don't, you guys deserve it. And they're like, oh, thank you. Because this entire time they've been making plans to invade the US. Now around this time, a lot of countries start leaving NATO because it's like, there's no other big country that poses a real threat to us. So we're like, we could just leave. So basically, the countries that leave at first are the Nordics, like all the Nordics, the Baltics, Russia, China. Well, not China yet, not yet, but Russia does. Belarus, because Belarus was like also dragged into NATO. Ukraine doesn't. Moldova does. Romania, Bulgaria. So basically these countries down here, as well as here. So all that's left in NATO is this, Portugal, this. So basically here. And later, the Benelux leave, Italy leaves, Spain leaves, France leaves, Portugal leaves, Ireland leaves. So now it's just Britain, Canada, and USA. as well as China and Korea. But then China leaves, then Korea, then USA is just like, you know, I might as well demolish this anyway, people are leaving. So they demolish it, even when Canada and Britain were staying. So then Canada and Britain were like, you know what, USA doesn't want to be our friend, so let's be friends. So they're like, okay. So then Britain's like, you know what, since Ireland isn't in NATO anymore, I guess we can invade them. So they invade them. They take everything. And they are victorious, but then USA gets mad about this, and then they start, like, telling the UK to give their land back, and they refuse. So then they declare war on them, but then Canada joins in. And this is the part where things start breaking down. So Canada swiftly takes regions here. And you're like, you know what, there is a lot of nukes around here, so let's rush down here, take those nukes, and then try and find the passcode, just in case we need to use them. So they take around here, which has like a sizable amount of nukes. They ended up finding the passcode to most of them. So they're like, okay, we're ready to launch it. So then US decides that it would be funny to nuke up here, and they're like, okay, that's it. And then they nuke like right down here. Then they send like a special team right there with like hazmat suits and stuff and anti-radioactive suits. And since the US can't put troops there, so they basically give up on defending that. Meaning that permanently, until the US makes those same troops, Canada controls this. So then they start pushing up here. So, as well as down by here. Now, American Cuba gets run over by the Canadians, not by a car, but the Canadians take it. Mexico, to try and get its land back, declares war. And the Americans basically just let them have it, because they just don't want to waste military equipment on them. Then Canada, also, they start to take Alaska, and America's like, just give up Alaska, they're better at fighting than us in the mountains and stuff. So just give it up. If there's any troops there, just make them leave. So now Canada takes Alaska. And they almost forgot about the American colonies down by here. So they take that. Okay, these aren't American, I don't think. They start pushing here. And they end up taking the entire west coast of the US. And the US has been holding up this line for a long time, but now that they're being flanked, they're unable to defend it, so they have to retreat. But some but most of them get encircled and killed before they can escape. Then Canada does another naval invasion in Texas. They end up taking the whole of Texas, connecting with this. They then encircle here. And they take that. Then the US is like, just retreat every single of those troops back to here. So the troops start to evacuate, but again, they get encircled. And this time there's a absolutely massive encirclement, which splits off into multiple different pieces. Which then eventually dies. And the British Navy is the British Navy's part was to make a blockade around by here, stopping any like supply from like over by there that they needed to come to them. And there's some British troops up by around here helping. There's also like a couple around by here, which used to be up there before they pushed. Then the US starts, well, then the US basically just dies. So now that the US is over, Canada has this massive empire spanning like all like freaking in Europe, because of there, North America, South America, basically just everywhere. And they've defeated like what used to be like the strongest country, with some support from Britain, because the Americans did declare war on them after they refused to give Ireland. Anyway, this is just a part 1, by the way. I'll be like doing a part 2 and like taking like the major parts of like the world, like not really the islands and stuff, like major like parts and stuff. So like share, like just like do good things, and goodbye, and have a good day, and see you in the next one.